Hello folks, I don't know about you, but it has started to get just a little bit cold on my ride into work, which is usually about the time that I change from even my winter gloves to my heated gloves in actual fact. I like wearing heated gloves on a ride because it keeps your hands moving, keeps them mobile, they don't freeze up and seize up as you start to ride, and ultimately they are safer as a result. Now we have three offerings here from the British manufacturer Merlin. We have one that we have had previously, which is the Minworth on my right, that has been with us for a while. We have two new ones for their autumn-winter collection, and they would be the Longdon, be very careful how you say that, Tim, and the Finchley over here. There are obviously similarities between them. They share a lot of similar technology, which I will explain as I go as best I can to show you which parts are the same. And of course, they've got some areas that they differ. Probably the most obvious is the fact that the Minworth and the Longdon are both a long cuff, a longer glove, and the Finchley is a shorter cuff and is designed more for city riding, commuting, town riding, that sort of thing. It also comes with a smaller battery. The styles are also different. The Minworth notably comes in three color variants. We have the brown, dark brown or black versions. You've got only black in the Longdon and the Finchley. And then of course the price is different across the range. You have the Minworth at the time of making this video coming in at £199.99. The Longdon are £199.99 as well. And the Finchley are £179.99. Also, and something I will expand on as we go, there are different levels of thickness to the insulation on the back of your hand. Now then, should we start with the features, some of the aesthetics, before I get on to the intricacies of the battery and the amount of time they last whilst you're on the bike. Starting with the Minworth then, this has its own review, but to refresh, we have a cowhide leather outer, classic retro styling of course, a Hypora waterproof membrane, and that is true across all of these gloves. D3O protection at your knuckles. You've also got some protection on your palm. Again, across all of these gloves, they of course pass CE approval and UKCA approval. And they have a thin sealant liner for your insulation on the back of your hand. That is 200 gram. It is thicker on that area because of course it's more exposed to the elements, and 100 gram on the palm. So it's a little bit thinner and a little bit easier to use at the bars. You can be a bit more dexterous if it is thinner on your palm. You will also notice something for the use of a touchscreen on your index finger and your thumb, and Velcro straps around your wrist. Moving on then, we probably have the most substantial gloves in this lineup. There is only a small difference really between these and the Minworth, but there are a few extra details in them. Starting with, they are a mixture of cowhide leather in certain areas, obviously, and nylon for your textile. You have something for the use of touchscreen on your index finger and your thumb. The index finger is a little bit fiddly, a little bit vague on the screen. I actually probably prioritize the thumb instead if you want it to be a bit more accurate, but it's still useful in a pinch. Again, Velcro cuff on this, really stretchy actually. And considering that you've got the battery at your cuff, that is an important consideration, but there's a lot of flexibility in there. They're very easy to get on or off. Again, you'll see the D3O logo. You have D3O armor at your palm, at your wrist actually, just on this section here, which you don't get in the Minworth. And then of course, the same knuckle armor that you do get with the Minworth. Again, they have a Hypora waterproof membrane, but for the insulation, you actually have a 260 gram backing on the back of your hand and 100 gram again on your palm. So slightly thicker on the back of your hand. Do I think you're realistically going to feel a big difference between this and the Minworth? Probably not, but if you want the most insulated glove, this is your pick. Then we have the smaller Finchley, more designed for urban riding. It says so in the name, in fact. And these are obviously a textile glove with little areas of leather across them. You've also got silicone on your palm, which will make them easier to grip the bars. And you have less armor in these than you'll find with the Minworth or the Longdon, but of course, that will aid flexibility. They will be a little bit easier to move your hand around in. They have that Hypora waterproof membrane also, and they of course have insulation. This time round, you have 180 grams to the back of your hand and 100 gram on your palm. Also, as with the other gloves, you have something for the use of a touchscreen with your index finger and your thumb. They also have a very flexible Velcro fastener at your wrist. Again, very important, especially with these ones, in fact, with the shorter cuff, of course, it is very important for it to be flexible and easy to get on because you still have to fit a battery in there ultimately. They've also got this big loop around your wrist, which makes it very easy to pull them into place on your hand. With all of that explained, you can start to see how these gloves differ from each other and the fact that they are suited to slightly different types of riding. Probably most notably, of course, in the length of the battery's life whilst you're riding. Now, they all use the same charger, so you have a USB charger. You just plug them in and plug it into both batteries. Keep them topped up. If you are going to leave them in a drawer through the summer when you're not using them quite so much, just make sure the battery still has some life in it to give it the best longevity. They would recommend somewhere around sort of 70%, but you'll know that with any kind of battery that you use. Let's stick on the one with the fun name, the Longdon, while I explain what they feel like as a pair of gloves and what the heating feels like as well. So all of them use a heating filament to the back of your hand. It runs down the whole of the back of your hand, including your fingertips, most importantly, because those are the areas that tend to get coldest the quickest. And you've got a switch at your wrist, which you can switch on. For these two, you have it in this bar form, so you can see it goes straight to the hottest setting, and you can change that down to setting 1 and then turn them off ultimately. With the Finchley, they actually are color-coded, so you've got either green, amber, or red for the heat settings. They say that they give you the same level of heat across the 3 gloves. The only difference is the longevity of that battery. So it's a decent consideration. If you're going to do longer trips, you will want to favor the bigger battery, the bigger gloves, because it's going to last longer ultimately. The Longdon and the Minworth both have a 2200 milliamp hour battery. It looks like this. It is fairly chunky, but it doesn't get in the way at all because of the way they've mounted it. So you do that to your wrist, in fact. So the pocket is on the underside of your wrist, meaning that when you're moving your hand on the bars, it's not in the way, it doesn't make it restrictive. I much prefer having that placement. I can tell you that for heated gloves, in terms of the heat that you actually get to your hand, it's pretty much par for the course, meaning that they're not scorchingly hot, and you wouldn't really want that anyway. But when you're on the road, if you are doing high speeds, you don't tend to feel it that strongly, but it does a really decent job of blocking out that cold weather. What I tend to do is just start off, stick them on a low setting, ride for a little bit. If I can't feel them at all, maybe I'll turn them up a little bit further just so my fingers don't start to lose sensation. But once you've found your setting, just leave it there. If you don't need to go to setting 3, then don't. Just keep it on the appropriate setting where you can just about feel that heat coming through. They say that the 2200 milliamp hour battery should give you 4 hours of riding on the middle setting. For the Finchley, because it has a 1100 milliamp hour battery, it is half the size of this. They actually say that on that middle setting, it should give you 3 hours. Now, I think that might be a little bit optimistic. It's probably somewhere between 2 and 3 hours. But still, if you're riding in a city, that's probably enough for you. If you bring the charger with you, it will be able to get you to work. You can charge it up if you really need to. But for me, with my commute, I would say that would get me to work and back home at the end of the day. You can see, though, between the two of them, the size difference we're dealing with here. Of course, it is half the size of the bigger gloves. And that is important because, of course, the cuff is slightly shorter as well, and it is mounted on the back of your hand in this case. Now, I've said that I prefer it being on the bottom of your wrist, but I understand why they've done it in this setting, and that is to give you the room because it is slightly shorter. There's no way around it. You do need to put it on the back of your hand, but it's still flexible enough, especially at the cuff, to allow for that battery to be there. That does come into play when you're considering your sizing though. So for all of these gloves, I would say from our testing, we find them to be a little bit on the snug side. So if you find that when you're buying gloves, generally you're between 2 sizes, err on the side of caution, go for the slightly bigger size. That is most true with the Finchley because, of course, it has that battery there. You will need to make sure you've got the room for comfort's sake. As always, we have that size guide on the website for a reason. Check it out if you need it. If you order these within the UK, anything over £50 you can send back to us free of charge. So don't worry if you do get the wrong size, but obviously it's always nice to get it right the first time. And let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Check out the links if you want to see these gloves for yourself and have a very comfortable riding season this winter. See you soon.